Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You are joining your normal host, Greg Thompson, and the OG himself, Eric Turner. Eric, welcome.
Thanks, man. I know it's been a while since I've been on with you guys. So, but what better way down here in Mobile? I mean, obviously I've been down here a few years, but I'd like to hear your experience so far. I mean, today was quite the whirlwind. It's the longest day, if you guys didn't know. I mean, they have the official weigh-ins, they have media day, and then of course practices. But Greg being his first time down here, I'd like to hear your experience. Maybe the shucks, oh my God, what am I doing here type moments,
It's pretty crazy. So you walk into this convention center, you're getting your, collateral and your different certificate to be where you need to be, and they have your lanyard ready. And then you turn around and Charles Davis is right there, and then Albert Breer is right here, and then you're walking by and Todd McShay is walking past you, and then we sit down to watch practice and Drew Rosenhaus is next to us. Yeah. And I'm going up the escalator, and down the escalator is coming Frank Reich, and he's talking. It's just crazy to see so many people that you spend so much time reading about and learning about and knowing and watching on TV, and everyone is around you all the time. Like literally the entire NFL descends on this one place in time all at once.
Right.
And it's just crazy to see everybody there all at the same time.
Yeah, it is. And, it doesn't matter how many times you're down here. That's what's great about it is a small little town. But everyone is really personable, not just around town, but even the big names you just mentioned.
Right.
Like you could literally walk up to, the Drew Rosenhauses and guys like that and shake their hand, introduce yourself. They may not remember you, but, there's no doubt about it. Like they will be friendly to you. I think that's what's cool about this. It is like a country club atmosphere, right?
Yeah, it was really crazy. And like I said, everyone was very, very nice, really engaging, really welcoming and talking to things. I ran into several people that I had only ever met online and people that you interact with for years sometimes. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I've never met you in person, but we talk all the time back and forth.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to just kind of connect there. Mark Schofield, people we've had on the show that I'd never met in person before, and going through there and being able to actually connect with everyone was even our team.
Yeah.
I'd never met Brad before.
Right?
I'd never met Paige before. Just the whole team going through and like, oh, it's kind of cool to be able to connect and actually interact in person. So,
what about Bills members, like Bills, the organization, or people that cover the team? Who are some of those people that you met for the first time today that you've talked to obviously a lot online?
Yeah, it was kind of cool to be able to go through. Obviously, it was right in the scrum, this far away from Brandon Beane doing his interview, being able to talk with the whole crew that covers the Bills, but Leslie Frazier and Heath Farwell and Brian Dable, and seeing all of them all around us all the time and interacting was a really cool experience to be able to get in there. And it was really cool to be able to be right in the middle of things, talking with Brandon Beane and getting those answers on things. And we'll talk as shows come, but he definitely gave a little bit of insight on one of the questions talking about free agency, that he kind of opened up a little bit about some of the research they've been doing on the higher price guys.
Yeah. That
he hinted a little bit more than he had in the past. It was really interesting to hear that. And it was just a very cool experience. So excited to be here and going through there. And I think it's a good segue to now talk a little bit about what we saw from the players. So a lot of folks that follow, and if you haven't, take a look at the feed. Russell, Christian, Brad, Eric, myself, tons on the Cover One core account, tons of stuff on the feed, tons of stuff on the site. Come on over, check it out at cover1.net. There's a lot of really good stuff that's going to be all coming out here. But I really focused today on a lot of the wide receivers. So I got some interviews. We were able to talk. Unfortunately, Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State is not going to be able to practice, got flagged for a medical. Didn't get a lot of detail on why, but he still interviewed, still was able to talk through some things. And also got some interviews with Michael Pittman Jr. and Chase Claypool, and I thought they all came off pretty well.
Yeah, it's not really my thing with the whole interviews and all that, but I thought, yes, the receiver group, Claypool, Pittman Jr., some of the running backs who we're going to be posting a bunch of these interviews here in the next couple hours. I thought everyone kind of presented themselves really well, to be honest. And Pittman Jr., I mean, let's talk about him, his interview, first of all, because we knew he played special teams, but I personally didn't know. I don't know about you. 4 punt blocks?
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, talk about, getting a coach excited, being a special teams player, but I mean, 4 punt blocks, and he even broke down like how and why he blocked those punts. So he's a guy that he interviewed very well. He was very personable. Didn't come off in that coach speak mentality or coached up mentality. He came across really well. And Claypool, same thing, right?
Yeah, I was actually really impressed. I got a chance to talk a little bit with Pittman Jr. in a little bit of a small scrum before we got over to the table. And he was even talking very candidly about speech therapy when he was younger and had a really bad stuttering problem and how it affected his confidence and his ability to just, kind of put himself out there, and how that kind of kept him very humble and working his way through that, and was just very transparent, very comfortable, sharing things that some people might not be that comfortable sharing in a setting like that. And I thought it really came through well, and you could see his face light up. I asked a question about, being a 4-down player and being able to show what he's capable of doing. And he said directly, he's like, when you show out on special teams, that get you on the field on offense, because they show that you're engaged and you understand how it fits in. And he said that I'm fine if that's how I need to earn my way onto the field to get the balls on offense.
Right. Yeah. And, I asked him a question, and again, we're going to be posting this here in a little bit. Just a little preview. I asked him a question about, how he studies film, how often he studies film, what type of tendencies he's looking for in the opposing cornerback or safety, and if he's got press coverage, how is he attacking that release? So stay tuned for that. It was really, really, really good answer. He basically broke down cornerbacks into two different types: guys that motor mirror, who kind of do that 6-inch shuffle backwards, or lateral guys. And so you guys will enjoy that once we get to it later on. But who else stood out to you? Maybe not just in interviews, but on the field as well.
Yeah, so going onto the practice field, one, it's really cold. We were trying to stay focused on what's going on there. And when you got down on the field, a couple players, again, I focused on the receivers today. Yeah. There was a couple guys that I don't know that I wasn't down on, but I was pretty neutral on, guys like a Van Jefferson from Florida. And when you saw him translate every single drill, footwork was perfect, caught the ball cleanly, tucked it away every time, wasn't double catching. And a couple of times you could just tell how much more advanced he was in his footwork and route running than the rest of the guys here. He lit a couple guys up. He was easily my winner for day one today, watching him, just as far as where my expectations were to where I ended up seeing him. I don't think he all of a sudden made himself a first rounder or anything crazy like that. I don't think he's going to test off the charts, but he's a guy that I'm confident, footwork like that, route running like that, the nuance he had, he's going to get open in the NFL.
Yeah, and you see it on his film too. He's a guy that can attack leverage, whether that's leverage on the field or leverage of a cornerback, leverage of a safety. He knows how to get open. That's the number one thing down here, because these guys are doing a lot of one-on-ones, a lot of skeleton 7-on-7. So having a guy that can win right off the line of scrimmage, it's and we saw it too at the top of the route too. Yeah. And he is so nuanced. It's not one speed in his route stem. He's using multiple speeds. He's changing the pace of his routes. He's using his eyes. He's got a little bit of everything, and it makes him a difficult cover. And I know there's a lot of people, we talked about it today with our crew, that worry about his age.
Sure.
By the time the season starts, I believe he's going to be 24. Does that matter? That's that's for you guys to debate. All I know is he was the best guy out there today.
Yeah.
And if I'm worrying about his age, I'm not evaluating him properly. I want my guy to get open. I want him to be QB friendly, and he showed that today.
Well, and a guy like Josh Allen that, maybe isn't ready to do the nuanced connection with a receiver, that it's all based on anticipation and timing, having a guy that can flash open because he can create separation with footwork and with route running, that's a great fit for him. And that whether that translates long-term into a big slot or he starts out on the outside, I think he has the versatility to do either of those things. And I get it. There's some science behind some of the breakout age numbers that come into things. And maybe that means he's not going to be Calvin Johnson or Julio Jones, but he can be a contributing receiver day one, more so than many receivers that might need more time to contribute.
And I'm glad you mentioned, he's the type of guy like Cole Beasley. It's kind of unorthodox route running. It may take a little longer for that route to develop and for him to separate because it's a little unorthodox, but with Josh Allen holding the ball that often, it almost works to his advantage, to Jefferson's advantage. Sort of like Cole Beasley, he's running a 5 to 7 yard route, but it's taking 2.5, 3 seconds for Josh Allen, and it kind of meshes up either way. And in the end, he gets open.
Yeah. Another guy that I don't know that I had really high expectations for was Colin Johnson out of Texas, and a guy that has some nice highlights on the film that you watch. I thought he was a little bit more nuanced than I expected. We joked, a guy that he's 6'6". Devin Duvernay is 5'10".
Yeah.
There were several routes where he was sinking his hips lower than Duvernay was. So they were both opposite ends of the spectrum. I expected a little more of Duvernay. He left a little to be desired. I wasn't expecting that much of Colin Johnson, and I thought he showed out better than I expected. So I'm glad the size guys were looking better, but just two guys from Texas that went opposite directions for me.
Yeah, it was interesting, too, because we were watching them in the Z drill where they just weave around cones. They drop their hips. They break down. It did look like Johnson was getting his hips lower than Duvernay. And, I mean, Duvernay, he's a thick kid. He can break tackles. He can run those bubble screens. Caught a lot of passes where he was wide open over the middle in that short to intermediate area. But I did like, Colin Johnson's his hip level and pad level altogether. It was a good day for him, I think. I mean, of course, he's still limited in some of those routes, but he knows what he does well, and he challenged himself today, and you could see it even just on, like I said, one-on-ones or just some of the drills prior to those one-on-ones. I thought he did pretty well today.
Yeah, and switching over into the North practice later on, we got to see Pittman Jr. and Claypool out on the field. I'll say I thought Pittman looked a little bit better. I thought that Claypool had a couple flashes, but also had some troubles with some drops. When he did catch the ball, there was a lot of double catching and having to regather on a few that didn't look very natural. So a guy that I'm so high on, but didn't have the best day today. And then I thought Pittman Jr. looked good, physical. I'm curious to see how he tests out when those kind of things come, but I think had a solid day. I don't know that any of them looked as good as the handful in the South there, but I thought that they looked all right.
Yeah, I'd say, they did a drill on the far sideline where it was press man coverage, receivers versus the DBs. And what they were trying to do is win the release and then stack the defensive back. And I thought that drill was more telling than the actual one-on-ones, because those were some of the issues that those big guys are going to struggle with. Claypool, Pittman, winning that release is one thing, but then stacking, getting on top of that defender is the next step, right? Of maintaining that separation. And I thought a lot of those guys had troubles holding that line. And it was a cool view, right? Because it was totally across the field. You're basically looking down the yard lines, and you could see the separation they weren't getting, and you could definitely see that they weren't keeping the line. And I thought the DBs won that drill, and I thought that was a little more telling, because you get to one-on-one sometimes, and those guys are in off coverage, and the DBs really don't stand a chance. But that one play, Pittman, who I can't remember what defensive back it was, but he gave him a good stutter go, and he scored a touchdown in the far end zone. So that was cool. So, yeah, I agree. I thought Claypool would show a little better, especially in that tight coverage and separating, because I do think Pittman's a little more nuanced in winning in that short area, but I thought Claypool would be a little better today than he showed out.
Yeah, again, not concerned, but just was left a little bit to be desired. That was really all we wanted to kind of go through here today. Give you a quick feedback. We'll do this each day on our takeaways from what we saw, but wanted to share a little bit that's out there. Tomorrow, I'm going to focus a little bit more on the pass rushers and some of the O-line, D-line drills. Yeah. So looking forward to see some of that. But make sure you're keeping a look on the feed. Go on cover1.net. Take a look on the app. We got some awesome coverage coming out from Christian, Russell, Brad, Eric, and I. Everybody will be pushing out stuff all day long. So all kinds of stuff to keep you guys busy. Any final takeaways for everybody?
No, like I said, we're going to have content dropping all night, and obviously this week. Be on the lookout for the interviews here in the next couple hours, and I'll try to put out some of those drills that you guys are asking about in the chat, because we had a great view of it, and it was a good first day, man.
Yeah,
it was a good
lot
first
of fun.
day. I'm excited. I'm with you. We need to focus on some edge rushers, because when I did look over to that side, no one was really flashing to me. Yeah. Well, besides Gallimore, but he's always gonna flash. But yeah, we'll focus on that tomorrow and later in the week. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys very much. Awesome in the chat again. A lot of fun. Looking forward to giving you more as the week goes. You've been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are out.